Hi, everybody. Welcome to the D. Louise book series. I'm Christina, Kristina. It's nice to meet you. This is where we read books and talk about books. No special effects going on here. Working with a computer held together by a binder clip, the bottom separated. This is working out pretty well. It's been almost 3, 4, 5 months now. So we'll see what's going to happen. So, if you could please check out Star Trek Next Generation recaps that happened earlier today. And If Then, that's what this is. This is If Then. If you like this author, maybe you like that author. And Flashback Mondays. And if you could please, a couple weeks ago, I did Black authors, and I worked really, really hard on that. And no one has watched it. Literally, there's been like 10 people, and that's it. So if you could please check that out and please spread that around, I would really, really appreciate it. I worked really hard on that video. I worked really hard on this one. This is overwhelming too. I think I went above and beyond I have to number how many books I did. There's probably 20 here, 20 or 30. But I worked really hard on Flashback Monday. Been doing over 60, 70 books each podcast. And my daily book reviews. Now, you're going to see one book here today. If I will point out the book today that I'm currently reading, and then if you could go watch the video which aired yesterday. Time travel, got you there. Time travel, that's what we're doing. Time travel. So I'm reading the book today, and you can go and check out the video that was posted yesterday. Time travel. That's what we're doing. Time travel. And if you could please check out, we're doing the Victoria Thompson's Gaslight series. We're up to the 20s now. We're almost done. Oh my god. Then we have to wait a whole year for the next one. Oh good god. We're doing Black Dagger Brotherhood, J.R. Ward. And we're getting up there too. 12, 13. We just did The King. We're going to do Shadows next. This is the to-be-read pile for the week. Shadows. Cross. We're doing James Patterson's Alex Cross series. And the next one up on Victoria Thompson is Murder on Union Square. So that's the to-be-read pile this week. After I finish this other thing, I'm going to mix this in with this thing because I found this thing while making this thing. So I found this series. There's only 4 books in it that I know of that I've gathered up, and I'm enjoying the first book. It's driving me bonkers. You'll have to watch the video yesterday. So far there's over 60 characters I'm trying to keep track of, but we will get to it. And if you could please check out the video yesterday. So if you time travel, you might have thought it started in 2005. It might have been the inspirational for where is it? I know I got it out. Yes, here it is. A couple of these books you will have seen previously on my podcast. You could go please check them out. So anyway, you might have thought it started with her, an Outlander, and we will talk about this in a second. Claire Beecham Randall is a nurse in World War II, the 40s, and she meets and falls in love with Frank Randall, and they marry, and the war continues, and after the war, they go on their honeymoon to Scotland, and spoiler alert, there's 9 books of this so far. There's been a TV series so far, but she goes up to Stonehenge, not a similar type Stonehenge situation, and she falls through the stones to the 1700s, where she meets James Fraser, and romance ensues. And if you didn't know, they also did a little bit of a comic book from Jamie's point of view here. So what do you think? So that was your first taste of time travel, probably for the average person. Now, if you, prior to this, or around the same time as this, it might have spurred her on or might have gotten the idea. There was this one. Now, I will confess, I don't like this one. I don't like it at all. I didn't like the movie. It was hard to follow along. The book was, I didn't like the book either. But this is a huge staple of all time travel books. If you ask anybody about it, today. Now, 10 years ago, they might or might not have mentioned Outlander, but Outlander was a big thing even 10 years ago. But this was also a huge thing 20 years ago, and it still maintains its position in the book industry. And if you go online or something like that and you ask somebody you're interested in time travel, they'll mention you're guaranteed to get 2 books mentioned. Absolute 100% guaranteed. If you're going, I'm looking for some time travel books, these 2 books will 100% get mentioned. Outlander will get mentioned 100%, without a doubt. Somewhere, someone will mention Outlander. The second book in question, this is terrible. I will do one of those. So we go like this. Honey, time to put the picture here. Here we go. Put the picture here. You'll see the picture here. I'm an idiot. But anyways, see if I can do this. No. That's a little bit better. The Time Traveler's Wife. I'll put the picture up. But I just said I'd try it this way. You see, I have a very poor camera. Very, very poor camera. So I'll just put it up here. It'll take extra. My computer will take 5 or 6 hours to upload this video. So if you could kindly watch the whole thing, I'd really, really appreciate it. Oh, and if you could like and subscribe, I'd really, really appreciate it. So The Time Traveler's Wife is a love story of Claire and Henry, who met when Claire was 6 and Henry was 36, and were married when Claire was 22 and Henry was 30. Impossible but true, because Henry suffers from a rare condition where his genetic clock periodically resets, and he finds himself suddenly pulled into the past or future. In the face of this force they can neither prevent nor control, Henry and Claire struggle to lead normal lives in both intensely moving and entirely unforgettable. So that's The Time Traveler. The other honorable mentions here, Time Change by Elsie Douglas, ELYSE DOUGLAS. In 1948, a film star sees a strange man in her photos. In 2019, a writer sees a strange woman in his photos. Film star and writer occupy the same beach house 71 years apart. In an extraordinary moment, they meet face to face. Hypnotic, original, intrepid, the story grabs you from the first page and never lets go. Rita Randall, a celebrated film noir actress in 1948, leaves LA after a fatal confrontation. Clint West is a best-selling author in 2019, struggling to move on after the death of his wife. Rita and Clint travel to Long Island, New York, and occupy the same beach house 71 years apart. When Rita appears in the background of Clint's recent cell phone photos, he's mystified. When Clint appears in Rita's photos, she's troubled and confused. Clint investigates and learns about secret time travel experiments that were conducted in the area during the 1940s. Clint meets Oscar, a 95-year-old physicist who worked for the military in the 1940s, who had time-traveled himself using time portals. During a thunderstorm, Rita wanders the beach. When she sees a rolling blue misty wave charging at her, she pivots and darts away. But there is no escape, and she is swallowed, tossed, propelled forward into the future to 2019. And romance ensues. So you'll have to see if that one strikes your fancy. Another honorable mention here is The Lovers by IRINA Shapiro. In 1665, when Elsie de Lippis is sold into marriage to Edward Asher, she resolved to be an obedient and dutiful wife until on their wedding night she finds out exactly what her husband has in store for her. His request leaves her feeling shocked and humiliated, but being his chattel, she has no right to refuse. The consequences of that night seal Elsie's fate and set her on a path that will lead to heartbreak and tragedy. In 2013, renowned archaeologist Dr. Quinn Allenby has a gift. She can see into the past when holding an object that belongs to the dead. When asked to host BBC series called Echoes from the Past, Quinn uses her gift to find out what really happened to the 17th century couple known only as the Lovers. Check it out. And our final honorable mention before we get to the books, Octavia E. Butler, Kindred. Now this is touchy, but it looks very, very interesting. This might be a good book of the month club book. It'll lead to much discussion. Dana, a modern black woman, is celebrating her 26th birthday with her new husband when she's snatched abruptly from a home in California and transported to the antebellum South. Rufus, the white son of a plantation owner, is drowning, and Dana has been summoned to save him. Dana is drawn back repeatedly through time to the slave quarters, and each time the stay grows longer, more arduous, more dangerous, until it is uncertain whether or not Dana's life will end long before it has a chance to begin. So check those out. Then we have another blast from the past. This book was first written in the 70s, I believe it says. Yeah, 1970. And Audrey DeVeراux, the lady from Time Traveler's Wife, writes a foreword for it, and they republish it. Time and again, Jack Finley. When advertising artist C. Morley is recruited to join a government operation exploring the possibility of time travel, he jumps at the chance to leave his mundane 20th century existence and step into New York in January 1882. Aside from his thirst for experience, he has good reason to return to the past. His friend Kate has a curious half-burned letter dated from that year, and he wants to trace the mystery. But when C falls in love with a woman he meets in the past, he will be forced to choose between two worlds forever. Originally published in 1970, this illustrated novel immediately became an underground hit. Now, more than 40 years later, it's still beloved. The rich, painstakingly researched description of life in New York City more than a century ago is an adventure for all. And it does have pictures. Yeah. You'll have to check it out. The power of Goodreads. Oh, and please check out my Flashback Monday, where I talk about Romantic Times book review. We'll probably get to this one, 2014. I'll have to see if it's in there. Okay, let me put these back up here. Alright, so Time and Again, Jack Finney. Then a book that jumps all over the place. I did all 5 of these, so please check out my videos for all of these. This guy's grandfather comes and wants him to travel back in time with him, to find the pieces of the skin map that tells you where all the Fae ley lines are. And when we do the Fae, we will drag out Miss Moaning back there, and we will drag out this book again, because it qualifies for a couple of different reasons. But if please go check out my 5 videos for the skin map. Book 2, what is the most prominent book in the series, and I will tell you that it doesn't go in a straight line. It goes this way and that way and this way and that way and this way and that way. And things in book 2 happen after book 3, but you have to read book 2 and then you get to book 3, and the character in book 3 is like, she's planning to do the stuff in book 2, but it hasn't happened. It's like, it'll just watch my videos and watch me try and figure all this out. But the book says, fancy this, you're rushing through London rain, late to your appointment, getting soaked and cursing your luck when suddenly you find yourself in a wholly unfamiliar place, chatting with a crazy old man by the name of Cosmo. He was going to meet his girlfriend, and his grandfather, he says he's his great-grandfather, and he proves some stuff. He only knows everything about you, but he claims to be your great-grandfather, and then before you know it, you are hurled into the midst of an unlikely adventure involving the hidden dimensions of the universe. That's precisely the situation Kit Livingstone finds himself in. He doesn't understand it, but it involves alternate realities and somehow relates to ley lines, or force fields of telluric energy, and the groundbreaking experiments of bizarrely tattooed traveler Arthur Flanders Petrie, aka the man who is the map. While Arthur Flanders is long gone from the plane of existence, he left a part of himself behind, a skin map. It has been since separated into 5 pieces, but the old man Cosmo explains to Kip the reassembled map might just lead them to the secret of the universe. So there are 5 books in this series, and like I said, my biggest complaint, and I wrote to the author, but I've never heard back, and I probably don't expect to hear back, but you didn't know when they were. There was no time period specified in the beginning of each chapter. So you didn't know if the bad guys were before or after, because they were chasing the good guys, but you didn't know when the bad guys leaped. Did they leap time after, or did they leap time before? And it's really screwy. You have to go watch my videos on this. But I enjoyed the heck out of it, but it confused the life out of me because there was no time frame. There was no time reference. It didn't go in a straight line. The first book. The first book might be linear, but then the second book goes crossways. The third one explodes with time differences because, like I said, one of the characters was moving frontwards in book 3, and the other character is before book 2, and she's planning for book 2 in book 3. It's just you just have to read it and let me know if you can keep a track in your mind. But this was a good book. Okay, then I'm trying to do all different varieties here. So we have Ruby Red, KERSTIN GIER. 16-year-old Gwen lives with her extended and rather eccentric family in an exclusive London neighborhood. In spite of her ancestors' peculiar history, she had a relatively normal life so far. The time-traveling gene that runs like a secret thread through the female half of the family is reported to have skipped over Gwen, so she hasn't introduced to the mysteries and can spend her time hanging out with her best friend Leslie. It comes as an unwelcome surprise when she starts taking sudden, uncontrolled leaps into the past. She's totally unprepared for time travel, not to mention all that comes with it. Fancy clothes, archaic manners, a mysterious secret society, and Gideon, her time travel companion. So you'll have to check that out. The Veil of Time, Claire McDougall. The medication that treats Maggie's seizures leaves her in a haze, but it can't dull her grief at losing her daughter at the same condition. With her marriage dissolved and her son away at school, Maggie retreats to a cottage below the ruins of Duned over the royal seat of Scotland. But it is fancy or reality when she awakens in a bustling village with massive walls of 18th century Dunall. In a time and place so strange yet so familiar, Maggie is drawn to the striking, somber Fergus, brother of the king and father of Illa, who bears a keen resemblance to Maggie's late daughter. With dreamlike journey to the past, Maggie grows closer to Fergus and embraces the possibility of staying forever. I want to know if she wakes up and she was in a coma or something at the end of it. I hate those kind of endings. I hope it turns out to be real for her. Emma STRAUB, This Time Tomorrow. Let me push my book pile back here. She likes her job even if it isn't exactly the one she expected. She's happy with her apartment and her romantic status and her independence, and she adores her lifelong best friend. But something is missing. Her father, the single parent who raised her, is ailing and out of reach. How did they get there so fast? Did she take too much for granted that way? When Alice wakes up the next morning, she finds herself back in 1996, reliving her 16th birthday. But it isn't just her adolescent body that shocks her or seeing her high school crush. It's her dad, the vital, charming 49-year-old version of her father with whom she's reunited. Now, don't you all wish you could go back in time and fix stuff or redo stuff or do stuff or tell yourself, prevent yourself from doing something that was really stupid that messed up your whole life, or not going on that date with that guy, or not going to that school but going to that school, or not doing that major but doing this major? There are so many things you could change if you could go back in time. I have regrets higher than the Empire State Building, and I wish we could go back and change all that stuff too. And this, I might be reading this too. You might see this pop up as one of the books I read. The Paradox Hotel, Rob Hart. January, Cole's job just got a lot harder. Not that running security at the Paradox was ever really easy. Nothing simple at the hotel where the ultra tourists arrive costumed for different time periods, all eagerly waiting to catch their flights to the past, or where proximity to the time port makes the clocks run backwards on occasion, and rumor has it allows ghosts to stroll the halls. None of that compares to the corpse in room 526, the one that seems to be both there and not there, the one that somehow only January can see. On top of that, some very important new guests have checked in because the U.S. government is about to prioritize time travel. January isn't sure the timing isn't a coincidence. Neither are those accidents that start happening. There's a reason January can glimpse what others can't. A reason why she's the only one who can catch a killer who's operating invisible and in plain sight all at once. Her ability is also destroying her grip on reality as her past, present, and future collide. She finds herself confronting not just the hotel's dark secrets, but her own. Wrong place, wrong time. Gillian McAllister. Late October after midnight, you're waiting for your 16-year-old son. He's past curfew. As you watch from the windows, he emerges and you realize he's not alone. He's walking toward a man and he's armed. You can't believe it when you see him do it. Your funny, happy teenage son. He kills a stranger right there outside your house. You don't know who, you don't know why, you only know your son is now in custody. His future is shattered. That night you fall asleep in despair. All is lost until you wake up and it's yesterday. And then you wake again and it's the day before. Every morning you wake up a day earlier, another day before the murder, with another chance to stop. Somewhere in the past lies an answer and the reason why your son did what he did. But there's a lot of people that like to do that, to go back before a tragic accident happens and prevent the person from going someplace or getting in that car or going down that street or anything like that. Lisa Grunwald, time after time. On clear December morning in 1937, at the famous Gold Clock in Grand Central, Joe Reynolds, a hard-working railroad man from Queens, meets a vibrant young woman who's seemingly out of place. Nora Lansing is a Manhattan socialite whose flapper clothing, pearl earrings, and talk of the Roaring Twenties don't seem to match the bleak mood of the Depression-era New York. Captivated by Nora from her first electric truck, Joe despairs when he tries to walk her home and she disappears. Finding her again and again will become the focus of his love and life. Nora, a fiercely independent, aspiring artist, is shocked to find she's somehow trapped. Her presence in the terminal governed by the rules she cannot fathom. It isn't until she meets Joe that she begins to understand the effect that time is having on her, and the possible connections to the working of Grand Central and the solar phenomenon known as the Manhattan Hinge, when the sun rises or sets between the city's skyscrapers, aligned perfectly with the streets below. As thousands of visitors pass under the famous celestial blue ceiling each day, Joe and Nora create a life unlike any they could have imagined. With infinite love in infinite space, they take full advantage of Terminal City. Now, you will also see a video for this on my channel. I did it last September. And I always say the mark of a good book is if when you read a book and then you put it down, if you can remember what it was about, it was a good book. But if you put it down and you're like, wait a second. Oh yeah. So I'm on the shelf with this because I picked this up again and I was like, oh, I need to read this series. This looks really, really good. And then I discovered that I did a video on these last September. And usually that'll jog my memory and I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember, blah, 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 blah. I played the video for this. I didn't remember. I still don't remember. So I'm not sure, but I know I'm waiting for the next book to come out. There's another series too there's a Nora Roberts one, The Inheritance, I want to get into, and there's another one I can't remember. I thought this was the other one I was looking for, and it's not, and it's driving me crazy because I can't think of the author's name. So this is book one, A Rip Through Time. Homicide detective Mallory Atkinson is in Edinburgh to be with her dying grandmother. While out on a jog one evening, Mallory hears a woman in distress. She's drawn to the alley where she's attacked and loses consciousness. So from 2019, she gets transported to 1869. Housemaid Katrina Mitchell has been enjoying a half day off, only to discover that she's that night strangled and left for dead. Exactly 150 years before Mallory is strangled in the same spot. When Mallory wakes up in Katrina's body in 1869, she must put aside her shock and adjust quickly to her new reality. Life as a housemaid to an undertaker in Victorian Scotland. She soon discovers that her boss, Dr. Gray, also moonlights as a medical examiner and has just taken on an intriguing case, the strangulation of a young man, similar to the attack on herself. She only hopes that is catching the murderer can lead her back to modern life before it's too late. And apparently, she stays. The Poisoner's Ring. This is book 2. Modern-day homicide detective Mallory Atkinson is adjusting to her new life in Victorian Scotland. Her employers know she's not housemaid Katrina, even though Mallory is in Katrina's body, and Mallory is now officially an undertaker's assistant. Dr. Duncan Gray moonlights as a medical examiner, and his latest case hits close to home. Men are dropping from a powerful poison, and all signs point to the grieving widows, which the latest of which is Gray's oldest sister. So we'll have to check these out. Go check out my videos for these. Alright. Now, another set of books. And they fell. I don't know what the order is anymore. I'm just going to go through this quickly. I read this series a very long time ago. I like this series. And I remember what happens in them. So that tells you this was a good series, considering the fact that I read it 40 years ago. I remember this series. So that tells you something. It was a good series. And I also discovered I'm missing a couple books, so I will be putting on these on my D. Louise book series wish list, which I've got to figure out how to make public. There's over 300 books on that list. But I'm just going to go through these quickly. There's 7 of them. So I was reading, oh look, they're numbered. I really enjoyed this series, and I need to go and find the rest of them. Cameron Moaning, Beyond the Highland Mist. He was known throughout the kingdom as Hawk, legendary predator of the battlefield and the boudoir. No woman could refuse his touch, but no woman ever stirred his heart, until a vengeful fairy tumbled Adrienne de Simon out of modern-day Seattle and into medieval Scotland. Captive in a century not her own, entirely too bold, too outspoken, she was irresistible challenge to the 16th century rogue. Coerced into a marriage with Hawk, Adrienne vows to keep him at arm's length, but his sweet seduction played havoc with her resolve. So, and their story continues. They're like backup characters for the futures. So that's Beyond the Highland Mist. To Tame a Highland Warrior. He was born to a clan of supernatural strength, but Gravel MacLeod abandoned his name and his Highland castle, determined to escape the dark fate of his ancestors. Hiding his identity from the relentless rival clan that hunted him, he called himself Grim to protect the people he cared for, vowing never to acknowledge his love for ravishing Julie St. Clair. Yet even from afar he watched her come over, and when her father sent an urgent summons, "Come for Gillian," he raced to her side into a competition for her hand. Why had he run from her so many years before? Why now to see her offered as prize in her father's manipulative game? Gillian vowed never to wed. Grim was the man she loved, the one who urged her to marry another. He tried to pretend indifference as she tempted him, but he could not deny the desire that compelled him to abduct her from the altar. She's the only woman who could stand the tame rage within them as the enemies destroyed. Book 2, The Highlander's Touch. The Kiss of the Highlander. Entranced by a powerful spell, Highland Laird Duncan McKellar slumbered for nearly 5 centuries deep in a cave until an unlikely warrior awakened him. The enticing lass who dressed and spoke like no woman he'd ever known was from his distant future, where crumbled ruins were all that remained of his vanished homeworld. Dunstan knew he had to return to his own century if he was to save his people. The Dark Highlander. I, Douglas MacAllister, a man with one good conscience and 13 bad ones, driven to sate my desires from this penthouse lair above Manhattan, Douglas looks over a glittering city that calls to him the darkness within. A 16th century Scot trapped between both worlds. He's fighting a losing battle with the 13 Druids who possess his soul, dooming him to an eternity of sexual pursuit. When Chloe Xanders, a student of antiquities, is drawn into his world, she finds his insatiable alpha male irresistible. And they gotta cure the time thing. And there's somebody else, there's an evil spirit in that one too. The Immortal Highlander. With his long black hair and dark mesmerizing eyes, Adam Black is troubled with a capital T, arrogant and intensely sensual. He's free to roam across time and continents in pursuit of his insatiable desires. That is until a curse strips him of his immortality and makes him invisible. A cruel fate for so irresistible man. Now Adam's only hope for survival is in the hands of a woman who can actually see him. The Spell of the Highlander. Jesse St. James has got to get a life. Too many hours studying ancient artifacts has given the archaeology student a bad case of sex on the brain. So she figures she must be dreaming when she spies a gorgeous half-naked man staring out at her from inside the glass of an ancient mirror. But when a split-second decision saves her from a terrifying attempt on her life, Jessie finds herself confronting a 6.5 feet of smoldering, irresistible alpha male. And there's one more. Oh, look, I have book 5. Look at that. There's 5 books in that series. Into the Dreaming, Karen Marie Moning. For the first time in hardcover, stolen from his beloved home in the Highlands of Scotland, imprisoned in the unseelie court, Frosty Kingdom, Acleen McCann endured centuries of torture before becoming the icy, emotional vengeance, the Dark King's Alpha, dispatcher of death and destruction in the mortal realm. Oh, this is a Fae book. We'll have to include this in the Fae series too. Alright. The Winter Sea, Susan Kersley. In the spring of 1708, an invading Jacobite fleet of French and Scottish soldiers nearly succeed in landing the exiled James Stewart in Scotland to reclaim his crown. Now, Carrie McLean hopes to turn that story into her next best-selling novel. Settling herself in the window of Slane's castle, she creates a heroine named for one of her own ancestors and starts to write. But when she discovers her novel is more fact than fiction, Carrie wonders if she might be dealing with an ancestral memory, making her only living person who knows the truth, the ultimate betrayal that happened all those years ago. This book has come up a few times in Flashback Mondays and a couple other stories. Now, Here and Now, Mike Chen. Ken Stewart is an everyday family man working in IT, trying to keep the spark in his marriage, struggling to connect with his teenage daughter Miranda. But his current life is a far cry from his previous career as a time-traveling secret agent from 2142. Stranded in suburban San Francisco since the 1990s, a botched mission, Ken has kept his past hidden from everyone around him, despite the increasing blackouts and memory loss affecting his time traveler's brain, until one afternoon his rescue team arrives from 18 years too late. Their mission returned Ken to 2142, where he's only been gone weeks, not years, where another family is waiting for him, a family he can't remember. Should he go back to that family, or should he stay with the one he's got now? He has to make a choice. This is another series that I am going to be reading. It looks really cute. It looks really good. I have to go find the reading order of these, but these look really cute. I'm interested in these too. The Little Shop of Found Things, Paula Braxton. An antique shop haunted by ghosts, a silver treasure with injustice in its story, an adventure to the past she'll never forget. Anthony and her mother Flora leave London behind for a fresh start, taking over an antique shop in the historic of Marlborough. Anthony finds she has an affinity with some of the antiques she finds. While she touches them, she can sense something of their past and the stories they hold. When she has an intense connection to a beautiful chatelaine, she has to know more. It's a while she's examining the chatelaine that she's transported back to the 17th century, the time of its origin. She discovers there's an injustice in its history. The spirit that inhabits her new home confronts her and changes her with saving her daughter's life. Threatening to take Flores if she fails, while Dan fights to save the girl amid turbulence of 1605. She meets architect Samuel Appleby, who may be the person who can help her succeed. He may also be the reason she can't bring herself to return to the present. Another one of Paula's books, The Secrets of the Chocolate House. After her adventures in the 17th century, Zance does her best to settle back into the rhythm of life in Marlborough. She tells herself she must forget about Samuel and leave him in the past where he belongs. With the help of her new friend, she does the best to move on, focusing on the success of her and Flora's antique shop. But there are still things waiting to be found and justices needing to be right. Voices whispering to Zance long ago about secrets wanting to be shared. While looking for new stock for the shop, Zance hears the song of a copper chocolate pot. Soon after, she has an unsettling vision of Samuel in great danger, and she's got to go back and save him. Those look good. Alright, so now a few quick ones here. Sandra Hill, the Deadly Angels wore fangs. A time-traveling Viking vampire. Go figure. Different. Once guilty of the deadly sin of gluttony, 1,000-year-old Viking vampire angel Sinnat Sigurdsson is a new, lean, mean vampire devil fighting machine. His new job, no biggie, just riding world of threat of ISIS while keeping the evil Lupasire's demon vampires at bay. So when Chef Andrea hires him to rescue her sister from a cult recruiting terrorists at Montana Dude Ranch, Vengel Tane's cowboy... Oh, good God. I think that goes a little too far. Veronica Wolf, the master of the Highlanders. Ewan, chief of the clan, is a busy... let's see. Lily hopes that making a pilgrimage to Scotland, she's only heard of in lullabies, will help her find peace again. While exploring Highlands map, she discovered an overgrown maze and a strange stone map and lands in Lochaber of 1654. Ewan, chief of the clan of Cameron, is a busy man who must figure out how to save his people from the brutal redcoats and his time for little else. Having sight and air, the widowed Ewan has no need or room for another romance. Then his life drops a saucy lass with a particular accent, no regard for his title, and a rousing body, drawn to each other despite their differences. Love. Just in time for a Highlander. GWYN CREADY. Battle reenactor and financier Duncan McCard thinks he has made it until he lands in the middle of a real clan career battle and comes face to face with their beautiful, spirited leader. Out of time, out of place, Duncan must use every skill he can to muster his position among the clansmen and in the heart of devastating, intriguing women to whom he must pledge to. Amanda James, A Stitch in Time. Sarah Yates is 30-something history teacher, divorced, delusion, and desperate to have more excitement in her life. Making all her dreams come true seems about as likely as climbing Everest in stilettos. Then when even the doorbell rings and the handsome, mysterious John Needler brings more excitement than Sarah could ever imagine, he wants her to go back in time. A lady that's been around a very, very long time. Jude Deveraux, legend. Petite Katie Long, a celebrated chef about to be married to a gorgeous man, felt she was the luckiest woman alive. But when she opened an antique flower tin and discovered a charming old photo of 4 strangers, she felt a mysterious empathy, an irresistible desire to try on the delicate satin wedding dress, amethyst earrings, and a gossamer veil that tucked inside. Stranger still was the dizzy spell that came after. When she opened her eyes, Katie was in harsh sunlight landscape where a band of men had gathered and hanging was about to commence. Ever resourceful, Katie managed to stop the outlaws with a rifle shot and rescue the victim, a tall, rangy, and very appealing man. And that's the end there, except for the fact that you'll want to go back and watch yesterday's video. Like I said, we're doing some time travel here, so I'm reading today, but the video will be yesterday because I'm going back in time, and the video will be shown yesterday. So if you could go back and watch it, I'd appreciate it. But this is turning out to be a really good series. A Murder in Time, Julie McElwain. My biggest complaint is I'm taking a lot of notes, so it's slowing down my reading. Because there's over 65 characters in this book thus far. And because I've just started this series, I don't know who is a recurring character, who's somebody I'm going to have to pay attention to, because they will be the core cast. And then we have fringe characters on the outside who will only be there for the one book. So I don't know who they are yet. So I'm trying to figure that out. So I'm making my list, and there's 65 names on it. So please go back and watch A Murder in Time yesterday. So please go watch that. And then it'll be followed up with A Twist in Time, Caught in Time, Betrayal in Time, and Shadow in Time. So please look for this short series in between the J.R. Ward Black Dollar Brotherhood series, the James Patterson's Alex Cross series, and Victoria Thompson's Gaslight series. We'll be doing them all. So I hope you found something to read in your time travel books here. I hope you found something. I hope you watched this episode. Very few people do, so if you did, thank you very much. If you're still here, thank you very much. I've done over 900 videos. If you could please check those out, I'd really, really appreciate it. It would mean so much to me if you could go back and watch that Black author's video. It's gotten new views, at like 10 views. I'd really like for it to get a few more than 10. There's a couple of videos, if then the vampires didn't do very well. I don't know what's going on with the analytics, but some of my videos actually get shown to people and some of my videos just don't get shown at all. So I'd really appreciate it. And we're going to do some Big Brother. Oh, I'm so excited for Big Brother. Yay! We should do 5-minute shorts on that. But anyway, I've got to get back to my book. I'm on chapter 24, so I'm anxious to get back to it. So please hit the like and subscribe and let me know I'm doing a good job. And I hope you found a good time travel book. Go read Outlander. It's a good book. And our little comics here. Thank you. Have a good one.